Joining me now to talk more about Donald Trump's immigration speech in Phoenix and his earlier meeting with Mexico's president is Gabriel Guerra, a Mexico City-based communications expert, and John Phillips, a Trump supporter and talk radio host out of LA. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us. Gabriel Guerra, let's start with the immigration speech, where Donald Trump said he will build a wall along the southern border and Mexico will pay for it. Your reaction to that, given Trump says he didn't even discuss the issue of the wall with Mexico's president and who would pay for it?
Well, Rosemary, thank you for having me on, first of all. I think everybody was very surprised in Mexico that Mr. Trump was coming here at all, and especially on such short notice. And we were all looking forward to the moment where Mr. Nice Guy would devolve back to his traditional personality. And I think we saw that very clearly in the space of a few hours today, where he really did behave like the perfect guest today during his visit to Los Pinos and to President Peña. He was very courteous. He was very polite. He said all the right things about Mexicans and about Mexican Americans. But as was to be expected, and as many of us were cynics and pessimists back here in Mexico, which is sort of a national trait, as soon as he got back to his home crowd, he went back to his traditional stump speech, which I guess should be no surprise to anyone. Build the wall, have somebody else pay for it, and deport the heck out of undocumented migrants in the U.S.
John Phillips, your response to the speech, and tell us why you think Trump didn't even discuss the wall and who would pay for it when he met with Mexico's president, a point disputed by the president, has to be said. Different versions of the same meeting. What are people supposed to make of these mixed messages from Trump?
Well, when you meet with the president of Mexico, you don't want to start negotiating on the first time. I mean, you go there, it's a meet and greet, you say hello, you get to know each other. And I thought it worked out very well for Trump. It showed people that he can meet with foreign leaders. I guess the bar was set so low by his critics that the fact that he went there and was able to do it and not drop the F-bomb, everyone's saying it's a huge success. But look, this, I think, is causing a lot of people in the United States who had been less than receptive to Trump to look at him in a different way. We now see him on stage with world leaders. We saw him in that diplomatic sort of role. And I think that that's going to be a net positive. The Mexican president said Trump is a guy I can work with. They found common ground on any number of issues, immigration, trade, those sorts of things. So for him to do that, I think, shows a different side of Trump that we haven't seen before. And we've seen in recent polls Trump starting to bounce back. There's a Fox News poll out today showing Trump only down by 2 points. I think this will continue that momentum.
But no sooner had the meeting ended, you had two different versions of it. And one, we heard from Trump saying there was no discussion of the matter, and then we heard from Mexico's president saying, I said from the start that Mexico wouldn't be paying for this wall. How is that presidential? A lot of people are saying somebody lied here.
No, I don't think he lied. I think that the Mexican president brought it up at the beginning of the meeting. Trump never really responded to it or negotiated it, so it was brought up, but it wasn't discussed. So I guess it depends on what your definition of discussed is. It's certainly something that he didn't back away from in the speech in Phoenix. He gave a tough speech that was enforcement first.
And Gabriel Guerra, of course, a lot of people also asking, why would the Mexican president even invite Trump to talk with him? That wouldn't have done him any good. He's already suffering as far as the polls go in his own country. A lot of people despise Trump in Mexico. So why would you invite Trump and really come out of it with very little? And now, of course, we hear in this speech that the wall is still on and Mexico is paying for it.
And not only that, but we've heard tonight, Rosemary, probably one of the most emotional and, I might say, the most vindictive tones that Trump has ever used when referring to undocumented migrants, and especially at the end with the lineup of of parents who have lost a loved one to illegal immigrants. That is clearly playing to emotions. I was grinning a moment ago because John brought to my memory two famous phrases. One by a former U.S. president saying about Mr. Putin that he could work with that man. And the other one about parsing the definition of, I think it was another former president who said, well, it depends on what your definition of is. And in this case, it is the definition of discussion. It's really not relevant, I think, at least not in Mexico, who pays for the wall, because obviously, if this were to happen, which I personally think would be a mistake and very harmful to both countries, look, this is, if it were to happen, this would be a piece of public government work on American soil ordered by the Mexican government, by the American government, I'm sorry. So I don't really see how payment would even be a topic.
All right. John Phillips, last word to you. What was the motivation here for Donald Trump? Was this all about looking presidential and getting a photo opportunity? And overall, give us your assessment of how that immigration speech went over.
Well, I think the motivation is the same motivation that any politician running for president has, where they haven't been in some sort of position dealing with foreign policy. If you're a vice president, you've been dealing with foreign policy. If you're a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee or Foreign Affairs Committee, you deal with foreign policy. If you're a governor or a businessman and you come from outside that world, that's one of the hurdles that you have to leap over. And that was the motivation, I think, that Trump had for going down there. I think it was a hugely missed opportunity for Hillary Clinton, by the way, not to go down there. Invitations were sent to both of them. I think everyone expected Trump to say no and Hillary to say yes. As it turned out, the opposite occurred, and Trump went down there, and I think it's an overall a very good day for him.
I guess the polls will tell us very soon. Talking there with John Phillips, Gabriel Guerra, thank you, gentlemen, for talking with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as John Phillips mentioned in that interview, a new Fox News poll shows Hillary Clinton's lead over Donald Trump evaporating. The survey shows Clinton with 41% to Trump's 39%. Libertarian Gary Johnson pulls in 9%, and Green Party candidate Jill Stein gets 4%. In a head-to-head matchup, Clinton leads Trump by 6 points.